This video is about the VIX, the SIBO Volatility Index. It rates the volatility of the S&P 500, and it can be a useful tool to look on high time frames about which phases of market cycles that we're in and such. The way I use the VIX is to look at it as a gauge of investor sentiment. As volatility increases in the market, as things are shaking up and moving faster, people's confidence in the market goes down, and they tend to want to exit volatile markets until they can reapproach markets that are calmer and offering more, can't call them certain outcomes, but more predictable outcomes, if you will. With the VIX, it's important to look at which way the volatility is moving. It's not as important to get a read on what the volatility is right now. For that reason, I've put this line here for bullishness at 1811 and bearishness at 31.35. How do I use those? Well, when we spend some time in a region like this, and then we make that push past the bullishness, that to me is a signal that investor confidence is becoming more bullish, and that we should see asset prices rise. Anytime we see a move towards this end, like higher volatility, you start to see asset prices come down as investors leave the market and wait for a sign to re-enter. That movement across one of these lines is kind of a signal. You use it as confluence. So if you're looking for reasons to get bullish, if you're looking for reasons to create long setups or looking for entries to buy, usually when we're in this area, that's the way a lot of the market is looking at it. And if a lot of the market is looking to buy, what happens to price? Price goes up with buy pressure. So let's superimpose real quick Bitcoin on here. And you'll see it's not a super tight correlation, but there are some kind of high time frame uses for it. Let's kind of shrink Bitcoin up here, grab it and move it up. Now, you can see as the VIX was reaching around this area, like if we kind of highlight the areas that are outside of those borders, and then we look at what the market movement is doing, you can see this area from here till about here, while the VIX was peaking over that bearishness, while Bitcoin was on a steady downward trajectory. What happens as the VIX then enters the bullish territory? Well, from there, you can see, Bitcoin kind of crawled along and started to climb. And this whole time, you will have events, you will have news items, you will have shakeups, but just because it enters into this territory doesn't really mean much to me until you see a crossing from this territory into one end or the other end. That's what I kind of use for triggers. So like right here, we've been in the middle, and then we make that push into this end, and that represented a more serious climb. We make this push into this end, and that was a little climb. It's not going to be exact. If it was, this is all anyone would use, but it is one more thing that you put in your toolbox when you start to ask yourself, what kind of the cycle, where in the cycle am I? This has been, if you go by the reading on the VIX here, this has been a bull market since April 23. We've almost had 2 years of bull market, and the price action confirms that. Are we about to have the peaks that we had before, and then a slow decline into a bear market? Like, how long did the bear market technically last from the last peak of Bitcoin? That was November 21 until, so just over a year before it climbed up. So that's another thing to think, in the future, if you start to see something dramatically collapsing for a year, then that can inform your decision whether or not you're going to hold on, or, if you think things have been overheated for too long, or, anyone looking at this trend line break on the high time frame down, should have been really looking to get out here. And I think a lot of people were, because wow, look at the prices. A whole bunch of people sold. It added sell pressure. Hope this tool is useful to you. It's based off of the S&P 500. It's not based off of Bitcoin. Of course, Bitcoin tends to follow the S&P 500 in some fashion, so it is useful for our crypto examinations.